Have you ever stood at the edge of the ocean, cupping water in your hands, only to watch it seep away through the cracks between your fingers, no matter how tightly you squeeze? At first, you try to hold your palms steadier, tighter, but still, the water escapes until all that remains is a damp imprint and the frustrating ache of an empty grip. It's a simple, almost childlike experience, yet it holds a profound spiritual truth about the way life works, about how dreams, love, peace, and abundance often behave the same way. The harder you grasp, the more you try to control, the faster it all slips away. Not because you're unworthy, not because life is punishing you, but because there is an ancient, sacred law embedded within the very fabric of existence. That which is meant to flow cannot be captured by force. Yet, we forget this truth so easily. We push, we chase, we obsessively strategize, believing that effort alone will bend the universe to our will. We hustle until we're hollow, and still, the things we desire most, connection, peace, certainty, remain just beyond reach, like the horizon that recedes with every step forward. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet question starts to form. What if I'm doing everything right, but in the wrong way? If this reflection echoes in your soul right now, then pause, breathe. This is your sign. You're not lost. You're just being asked to try a different way. If this message stirs something ancient and tender within you, claim your readiness to shift by commenting, "I am open to flow," or 777. Let's collectively create a space of surrender together. Understand this: the universe is not a deaf, indifferent entity holding your desires at arm's length just to tease you. The universe is responsive. It listens not to your words, but to your energy. And the energy of desperation, of tight-fisted striving, sends a very clear signal. I don't trust. It's not that wanting is wrong. Desire is sacred. Desire is the compass of the soul. But when that desire is fused with frantic energy, with fear and the need to control, it becomes a repellent rather than a magnet. Picture yourself chasing butterflies with a net. The harder you run, the wilder you swing, the further they fly. But sit quietly, radiating calm, allowing nature to simply be around you, and those same butterflies might land softly on your shoulder. This is the real secret behind the law of attraction. It's not just thinking good thoughts or visualizing harder, it's about the frequency you inhabit. Are you vibrating at the frequency of lack of needing, gripping, striving? Or are you aligned with the energy of peace, trust, and allowing? Life responds to your state of being. You don't attract what you say you want, you attract what you are. When you become peace, peace finds you. When you embody love, love is drawn to you. When you live in trust, abundance naturally flows your way, because you've dissolved the barriers of resistance that your own tension was creating. Letting go is one of the most courageous acts you will ever undertake, precisely because it feels so counterintuitive in a world obsessed with control. We've been programmed to believe that surrender is akin to defeat, that letting go is what weak people do when they've run out of options. But spiritually, energetically, letting go is the opposite of giving up. It is not resignation. It is an empowered, conscious decision to stop waging war against the river of life and to instead let that river carry you. It is to finally acknowledge that your human mind, as brilliant as it may be, cannot outwit the divine intelligence that orchestrates galaxies, seasons, and the blossoming of flowers. When you let go, you are not saying, "I give up on my dreams." You are saying, "I trust there is a higher path, a better way, a divine timing that I might not yet understand." And the irony, the exquisite beauty of it all, is that the very moment you release your white-knuckled grip on how and when things should happen, life begins to move. Opportunities appear, solutions emerge. Relationships evolve, not because you chased harder, but because you finally stepped into harmony with the universal flow. Letting go shifts your energy from resistance to receptivity, from anxiety to alignment, from scarcity to sufficiency. And in that space, life which was never against you can finally reach you. You can feel this truth in your body if you get quiet enough. That persistent knot in your stomach, the tightness in your chest, the constant tension in your shoulders, these are not just physical ailments, they are the somatic signatures of spiritual resistance. Every moment you spend braced for life's impact, trying to control what is inherently uncontrollable, you constrict your energy field, and a constricted field cannot receive. You cannot catch the wind with a closed hand. This is why peace feels so elusive when you are anxious, why love feels so distant when you are needy, why abundance feels blocked when you are obsessed with lack. The body keeps the score, yes, but it also broadcasts your frequency. So when you feel that tightening, that restless unease, that inability to fully exhale, don't ignore it. That is your soul's way of saying, you are fighting what should be flowing. Instead of doubling down on effort, soften. Instead of controlling, allow. Instead of demanding answers, create stillness so the answers can reveal themselves. Your body knows the way back to alignment. The tension is not a punishment, it is a signal, an invitation to surrender. So here is your invitation today. Unclench. Unclench your jaw, your fists, your heart. Practice the radical, rebellious act of softening, not because you're weak, but because softness is a superpower in a world that glorifies hardness. Trust that you don't have to chase what is meant for you. Trust that your role is not to force the unfolding, but to prepare yourself to receive it. Build a life, an energy field, a presence that feels like home to the things you desire. Be the calm garden where butterflies rest, not the net that sends them scattering. And when you start living this way, you'll notice the subtle miracles, the right people reaching out, the unexpected opportunities that just feel meant to be, the clarity that dawns not in a rush, but in the quiet moments when you're finally still enough to hear your own soul. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is the universe doing what it has always done, responding to the truth of your energy. So let go, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally remembering that life was never meant to be gripped. It was meant to be held lightly, with reverence, with openness, and with trust. The great shift, the moment when everything begins to click into place, does not happen because of one final, monumental push. It happens in the sacred pause that comes after you finally decide to release. It comes in the moment of exhale, in the quiet surrender. This is a truth that defies the logic of our hustle-driven culture. We are taught to believe that breakthroughs come from struggle, that success is forged in the fires of relentless effort. And while action is indeed a vital component of creation, the most powerful action you can ever take is the action of aligning your energy before you move. It's about learning to hold your desires with an open palm rather than a clenched fist. You still honor the desire, you still cherish it, but you release the desperate, needy attachment to it. You begin to understand the critical difference between wanting something and needing it for your happiness. Wanting is a pure, creative impulse. Needing is an energy of lack, an anchor that keeps you tethered to the very reality you wish to escape. When you can want something with all your heart, yet simultaneously know that your wholeness and your peace are not dependent on acquiring it, you have mastered the art of divine detachment. It is in this beautiful, balanced state of being that the universe can finally conspire in your favor. Not because you forced it to, but because you finally created the vibrational space for it to do so. When you truly embody this principle, a profound change occurs within your very being. You cease to be a person who walks through life with an air of frantic desperation and instead become a beacon of quiet confidence. This isn't arrogance. This is the deep, unshakable knowing that comes from being in alignment with your higher self. It is a quiet trust that emanates from you, a vibrational signature that says, I trust the process of my life. I trust that I am always guided, always supported, and that what is meant for me will never miss me. People can feel this energy. It is magnetic. Opportunities are drawn to it. The right people, the right circumstances, the right ideas, they begin to gravitate towards you, not because you are hunting them down, but because they are drawn to the clarity and peace of your frequency. You stop screaming your desires into the universe from a place of fear and lack, and you begin to whisper your intentions from a place of calm certainty. And you will discover a miraculous truth. The universe hears a whisper of faith far more clearly than it hears a scream of fear. The whisper resonates on a higher frequency, a frequency of trust and allowance, and it is this frequency that unlocks the doors to manifestation. Think about it for a moment. Look back on your own life, at the most magical, unexpected, and beautiful moments that have ever occurred. When did they happen? Was it when you were obsessing, stressing, and trying to control every possible outcome? Or was it in those moments when you had finally let go, when you were relaxed, when you were simply enjoying the present moment, when you had thrown your hands up and said, whatever happens, happens? It is almost always the latter. The perfect job offer arrives the week after you stop desperately scouring the listings and start enjoying your time off. The love of your life walks in the moment you finally fall deeply in love with yourself and your own solitude. A brilliant, game-changing idea strikes you not when you're straining your brain in front of a computer, but when you're walking in nature, completely empty of thought. These are not coincidences. These are moments of pure alignment. These are instances where you, for a brief and beautiful moment, got out of your own way. You released the death grip of the ego, and in doing so, you allowed the magic of the universe to flow through you and for you. This is not a random phenomenon. It is a repeatable, spiritual technology. We must have compassion for ourselves, for we were not raised to understand this sacred dance. We were conditioned by a world that glorifies the struggle, that worships the hustle, that teaches us to equate our worth with our level of effort. We were told, if you don't fight tooth and nail for it, you will never get it. We were taught to micromanage every detail of our lives, to plan for every contingency, to view the world as a battlefield where we must constantly be on the offensive, and so we fight. We push against the river, trying to force it to flow in the direction we believe is best, all the while exhausting ourselves and wondering why we are making so little progress. We are trying to pull the entire ocean into our cupped hands, a futile and draining task, when all we ever had to do was walk to the shore and allow the waves to lap at our feet. The fight itself, the very act of struggling, is precisely what keeps your desires at a distance. It is an energetic declaration that what you want is separate from you, that it is hard to get, that it exists on the other side of a great battle. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, simply reflects that belief back to you, giving you the very battle you expect. The moment you choose to drop the fight, everything realigns. When you cease pushing and pulling, when you simply take a deep breath and allow yourself to float on the currents of the present moment, a new reality begins to dawn. You are no longer living in a state of reaction, but in a state of creation. Your nervous system, which has been locked in a state of fight or flight for so long, finally receives the signal that it is safe to relax. Your body, which has been carrying the heavy burden of your worries, begins to soften and heal. Your mind, which has been a chaotic whirlwind of what-ifs, begins to quiet down, creating space for true insight and divine guidance to emerge. This is not about apathy or becoming a passive bystander in your own life. This is the very opposite. This is about reclaiming your true power. It is an act of supreme spiritual discipline to choose peace in the face of uncertainty, to choose trust when your ego is screaming for a guarantee. It is the conscious choice to wake up each morning and, instead of trying to bend the day to your will, you choose to align your will with the day, to dance with what is, rather than fight with it. You must understand that the obsessive need for control is merely fear wearing a very clever disguise. It dresses itself up as responsibility, as prudence, as planning. But underneath the mask, it is simply the terror of the unknown. And the more you try to exert your control, the more life will present you with situations that are beautifully, perfectly, and divinely uncontrollable. Life will humble you, not as a punishment, but as a loving lesson. It is trying to break you open, to shatter the rigid shell of your ego so that the light of your true self can shine through. It is teaching you, again and again, that your greatest strength lies not in your ability to force, but in your capacity to receive. You do not need to force a reality that is already divinely orchestrated for your highest good. You do not need to manipulate the pieces on the chessboard of life. Your only task is to clear the noise, the obsessive overthinking, the paralyzing anxiety, the constant loop of, what if it doesn't work out? So that you can hear the gentle guidance that is always available to you. The real shift happens the moment you stop obsessing over whether it will happen and you start living with the faith that it already has on a vibrational level. You begin to embody the feeling of your desires fulfilled. You don't just visualize your success, you feel the peace and gratitude of that success in your heart right now. You don't just dream of love, you become a walking, breathing embodiment of love itself. This is the secret alchemy of creation. You become a magnet, not just for people or things, but for clarity, for peace, for divine synchronicities. That persistent mental fog that has clouded your judgment for years begins to lift, and you start seeing the world not through the distorted lens of fear, neediness, or desperation, but through the crystal clear lens of awareness, of calm, of stillness. You begin to see the signs that were there all along, the path that was always illuminated, the support that was constantly being offered. When you are in a state of chasing, you are in survival mode. You are energetically telling the universe, I am in a state of lack. I do not trust you to provide for me, so I must go out and hunt for it myself. And the universe, which is a perfect mirror, responds to that frequency of lack and distrust with resistance. It pushes back, it creates obstacles, it reflects your own internal struggle back to you as external challenges. But the moment your energy softens, the moment you drop into the sacred sanctuary of the now without trying to fix, chase, or control a single thing, the cosmic tide shifts in your favor. This is the moment you step back into your true divine power. This is not a passive act, it is the pinnacle of spiritual mastery. It is waking up every single day and choosing not to react to every little thing that pokes at your ego. It's choosing not to panic just because the future is uncertain. It is choosing to stay rooted in the unshakable truth of your soul, even when your mind is screaming for the false comfort of certainty. So, I ask you now, how many blessings have slipped right past your awareness because you were too busy trying to force the wrong doors open? How many soul-aligned people, divine opportunities, or moments of profound grace were standing right behind you, waiting for you to simply turn around? You were just too locked into your tunnel vision version of how things had to be. We think we are being disciplined, we think we are being focused when we try to control every detail, but in truth, we are just operating from a place of fear, scared to let go, scared to trust, scared to admit that maybe, just maybe, we don't have all the answers and that the universe has a plan for us that is far grander than anything our limited minds could ever conceive. The moment you stop trying to bend the world to your timeline, you create the sacred space for miracles to enter. In that space lives the divine timing, the beautiful synchronicities, the unexpected blessings that feel too good to be true, but are, in fact, your divine birth.